There is something deeply unsettling about ordinary faces. A neighbor, a classmate, a man who smiles politely. In the 1970s, across quiet American towns, young women began to disappear. No signs of forced entry, no witnesses to violence, only absence. Behind those disappearances was a man named Ted Bundy. He did not look dangerous. He studied psychology. He volunteered in political campaigns. He had relationships. He blended in, and that was the most dangerous thing about him. Bundy was born in 1946. His early life carried confusion about identity, raised believing his mother was his sister. A fractured beginning, a quiet emotional distance that followed him into adulthood. People who knew him described him as intelligent, controlled, sometimes distant. But inside, something was forming. A need not just to hurt, but to dominate. In 1974, near the University of Washington, the pattern began. Young women were approached by a polite man with an injured arm. He asked for help carrying books. He thanked them. He smiled, and then they vanished. Bundy understood human psychology. He understood trust. He didn't chase his victims. He invited them closer. Once inside his Volkswagen Beetle, control shifted instantly. The mask disappeared. What followed was calculated violence. Investigators would later discover that Bundy revisited crime scenes. He returned to the bodies, not for necessity, for possession. Control for Bundy did not end with death. As the months passed, disappearances spread across states: Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado. Law enforcement agencies struggled to communicate across state lines. There was no shared database, no centralized tracking. Bundy moved freely, invisible in plain sight. In 1975, he was finally arrested. But even in custody, he believed he was smarter than everyone in the room. In 1977, he escaped from a Colorado courthouse by jumping from a second-story window. He was caught. Months later, he escaped again, squeezing through a hole in the ceiling of his jail cell after carefully losing weight. It wasn't just escape. It was performance. He needed to prove superiority. He fled to Florida, and something changed. On January 15, 1978, he entered the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. This time, there was no manipulation, no careful setup, only raw violence. The attacks were faster, more chaotic, more desperate. The illusion of the controlled predator was collapsing. Weeks later, he abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. The crime shocked the nation. This was no longer a hidden predator moving quietly between states. This was a man unraveling. He was arrested in February 1978. The trial that followed became one of the first nationally televised murder trials in America. Bundy chose to represent himself. He questioned witnesses, objected to prosecutors, smiled at cameras. He enjoyed the attention. Even in chains, he sought control. Some spectators wrote him letters. Some said they saw innocence in his eyes. That is the unsettling truth about charisma. It does not disappear when exposed. It adapts. For years, Bundy denied responsibility. Then, shortly before his execution, he confessed to more than 30 murders. Investigators believe the number may be higher. What you are about to hear is the confession of Ted Bundy.
Using a briefcase and some crutches, and a young woman walked down. I saw her round the north end of the block into the alley and asked her to help me carry the briefcase. When I reached the car, I knocked her unconscious with the crowbar, and I handcuffed her and drove away.
She alive or dead?
Oh, no, she was unconscious, but she was very much alive. Then I again knocked her unconscious and strangled her.
On January 24, 1989, he was executed in the electric chair. Outside the prison, crowds gathered. Some cheered, some simply watched. But long after his death, one question remained: how did no one see it? The answer is uncomfortable, because evil does not always announce itself. It studies, it listens, it learns what you trust. Ted Bundy once said that serial killers are not monsters hiding in darkness. They are sons, they are husbands, they are men you might describe as normal, and that is why his story still disturbs us. Not because of the violence alone, but because of how easily he blended into the world around him. The silence behind the smile, the calm behind the cruelty, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who look exactly like everyone else.